Innovation. If you're not growing, you're dying. And that's the crude truth in the oil and gas industry. We're going to talk about that and cast them deep on this episode of The Crude Truth.
In 1901, at Spindletop Hill near Beaumont, the future of Texas changed dramatically as, like a fountain of fortune, thousands of barrels of oil burst from the earth towards the sky. Soon, Detroit would be cranking out Model Ts by the millions, and America was on the move, thanks to the black gold being produced in Texas. Now, more than a century later, the vehicles are different, but nothing else has truly changed. Sure, there may be many other alternative energy sources like wind and solar and electric. But let's be honest, America depends on oil and entrepreneurs, and if the USA is truly going to be independent, it has to know the crude truth.
NAPE is a proud sponsor of The Crude Truth. Be sure to register for the NAPE Expo 2024, February 7th through the 9th at the George R. Brown Convention Center in Houston, Texas. Hurry and register today. NAPE, where deals happen.
This episode is brought to you by LFS Chemistry, committed to being good stewards of the environment and providing the tools so you can be too. NAPE Expo, where deals happen. Air Compressor Solutions. When everything is on the line, Air Compressor Solutions is the dependable choice to keep commercial business powered up. Sandstone Group. Exec Crew. Elevate your network, elevate your knowledge. Oil and Gas Workers Association. Pecos Country Operating. Fueling our future.
Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time of the day it is. Thank you, as always, for tuning in to another episode of The Crude Truth. Today, I bring on somebody that is just an innovator, as my little teaser said there in the opening, somebody that is really blazing a trail, I should say, in the oil and gas industry, but also blazing a trail with the chemical side of things that we're doing in the exploration and production. My guest today is Jim Holmes. Jim, how are you?
I am wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man. Well, thank you for being here.
It's exciting.
Well, I'm excited. I finally got you in. You know, you've been, we met through, I got to do a quick shout out to Connection Crew.
Absolutely.
And, JP. Yeah, JP. And, man, you did his podcast. So everybody get out there, take a look at it. They're on the 45th floor at the Petroleum Club for that one or whatever it is.
Beautiful spot.
It was a good spot. So,
but you have it going on here as well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. But you guys, I mean, that was just a spot. So when I called you up and I was like, hey, I want you to come be on the show. I said, I can't compete with that view. But so thank you so much for coming in. And you actually have a plant here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, correct?
That is correct. Just southwest of here towards Crescent. Actually in Crescent.
Yeah.
Beautiful facility, just over 60 acres. That's a joint facility with Integrity Biochem.
Okay.
Integrity Biochem is a parent company for LFS Chemistry. It's a wonderful facility, just expanding it constantly, and really excited to see what's going to be coming out of there over the next few years.
Well, you know, I wanted you to come on to talk about, LFS Chemistry and also yourself, because you are an entrepreneur, and the things that y'all are doing, again, you're blazing that trail. Y'all are truly, I know it was a hook, but y'all really are innovating, as we talked about in our little pre-production meeting, that it's like, hey, we got to be continuing to evolve. So let's talk about you just a little bit and how you've evolved to where you are today. A little background.
Man, it's an interesting and very long, in-depth story, and we'll just talk about the peaks and not so many of the valleys.
Deal.
I got into oil and gas right out of high school, essentially, as semester 2 into college. Was driving vac trucks, saltwater disposal for Key Energy out of the College Station, Bryan area, and just have grown from there. Got to see chemistry firsthand. Not very exciting chemistry, but we did see chemistry. Tank bottom cleaning and oil and water separation and, demulse and opportunities like that. And it really kind of piqued my interest. Then by the time I was in my mid-20s, started to look at venturing out on my own and got into non-engineer background engineering for some offshore work and on land environmental. And then had my first opportunity to really dive in and start a company. So 2008 was really the first opportunity to get in directly as a ownership. And then 3.5 years later, did it again. then went to a big publicly traded chemical company.
Oh, wow.
Figured I would get some global expansion, some more knowledge and understanding of big business, if you will. And then in 2019, ventured off again and started LFS Chemistry.
Okay.
So LFS has been a fantastic run so far. It's nothing like starting a company 8 or 9 months before COVID hits and shuts everything down. LFS really started its life as Lightning Fluid Services.
Okay.
That's where the LFS comes from. So it's
Okay.
kind of a little bit of a tribute to one of the founding partners, which is Will Starnes, who still owns Lightning Fluid Services today. So we started that under the umbrella of Lightning Fluid Services.
Yeah.
Got it up and running, and then just split it off into a separate business unit,
Okay.
mostly for books and insurance and everything else. And that's where we came up with the name LFS Chemistry, to focus more specifically on chemistry.
Yes.
We didn't want to create a name that was so locked into one specific area, because we know my entire team is very well aware of how the chemistry world works, and it's not tunnel visioned.
Okay.
You've got to have big vision for chemistry. So here we are today. We recovered fully from 3 or 4 months of almost no completions activity, which is where we started our business, and
Wow.
now we're diversifying quite rapidly from that.
Well, you mentioned that that you guys started right before COVID, and that y'all went through this phase. How were you able to weather that storm during that time of COVID?
So we were fortunate that in July of 2019, we had our first bulk commercial sales of chemistry into the frac space. And we had just incredible growth going through the rest of that year, from July through December, really into January and February was incredible growth. Actually almost a little bit nervous on the growth, because sometimes growth, if it's not managed correctly, can be a problem from a cash flow perspective. I'm not a wealthy, deep pocket person, so I can't just keep dumping money in,
Right.
keep it afloat. But we had built up a nice nest egg going into that. We had some expansion plans, which all got put on hold when COVID hit. And, we fortunately, no layoffs, we just weathered it. We took that opportunity to really focus on designing more chemistries.
Okay.
So instead of sitting around wondering what's happening, we had a couple of really, really good guys every day just thinking about the next applications, the next chemistry. How can we utilize specific molecules to do things that we never intended?
You talk about the next chemistry, and lead into my next question is, okay, you mentioned again, another thing in our little pre-meeting was that, once you sold a chemical to an ExxonMobil or something like that, next thing you know, you've got every other company out there always talking about the next great thing, this and that. So let's talk about the chemistry side of this and how y'all are truly using innovation on near a daily basis, and what y'all see there and how y'all use that to y'all's advantage.
Absolutely. So you hit it right on the head. In the chemistry industry is a little bit of a funny industry, in the sense that there is a lot of resellers out there.
Okay.
There is a whole lot of small to medium-sized chemical companies that don't actually make it.
Okay.
And there's nothing wrong with that. There's a niche for all of it. They may have wonderful logistics, great field support, application knowledge for those chemistries. And you see it all over the place. So what we have to be very balanced in is to make sure we're not actually competing with ourselves.
Okay.
So what we do is we started our company with a very specific principle. We wanted to create the best surfactant systems on the planet.
Okay.
That's where we started. We're still building from that today. Now, surfactants is a very broad term. It can be used in almost any chemistry and any application around the world, from shampoos to oil field. They're all surfactant based. So surfactant is a fascinating chemistry in the fact that you can tune them and adjust them to do almost anything you want.
Okay.
So that's where we built our expertise.
Okay.
And I can't take any credit for that, because I'm not a chemist. Believe it or not, I had no formal education in chemistry other than some high school chemistry classes. We just have some incredible people. And if you spoke a lot about this on JP's podcast as well.
Yeah.
This company doesn't exist without some of the smartest people in it working with me. I'm there to set a mission and a view.
Okay.
And everybody else has to contribute. So I'm not the brains behind this organization. I try to be the motivation behind the organization. So now I've got a lot of background in application for chemistry, so that helps. You know, when we're designing a new chemistry, it needs to do X, it needs to do Y, and it needs to do it effectively, and it needs to do it cost effectively. So how do we check all of those boxes when you're designing a new chemistry? And that's what we focus on every single day. So it's, yes, we sell a microemulsion or a surfactant or a fancy clay control or something else into an ExxonMobil, for example.
Yeah.
And the next day, that same engineer that made the decision to use our product is listening to 5 other sales pitches on potentially similar products that are supposed to do the exact same thing. Or their take on it, maybe it does it better. And that's where all the lab testing and technical experience comes in, is we've got to disprove that. So in the frac world especially, you're fighting for every single sale.
Yes.
It's never well, we did this one horizontal well out in the Wolfcamp B for operator A. We're going to get the rest of them from now to the end of time. Yeah. Literally that very next well, we're fighting for the next one.
Yeah.
And start trying to show your worth.
Well, I mean, on the frac side of it, the key is to get back, obviously, as much, how much more can we open it up and get that oil out of there? I mean, and if there's something better at the same price or less that can do that, as an E&P company, you are looking like a hero to the people that run the numbers every day.
Correct. And
pay back their investors. It's like, oh, okay. It's like, well, let's go get that product again. But you're definitely in a competitive space. How do you prepare for that on a daily basis?
So a lot of that comes in our technical evaluation and expertise. Confidence sells. If our team has confidence in the chemistry we've created, we're going to be successful. If we can't show the team confidence in the technical aspect, it's not going to be successful. So you have to be differentiated. And that's one of the areas we're extremely focused on, is how can we stay differentiated from the competition? Sure, we have a flow aid or microemulsion or surfactant, whatever you want to call it. How is ours different? What does that mean to you at the end of the road on that particular application? Whether that's acidizing, restem, primary frac, tertiary EOR, you name it. They all use similar chemistries in different ways. So how do we stay differentiated? We got very fortunate, a little bit lucky in a lot of ways, that the timing of COVID actually helped us. So that gave us an opportunity to develop what is now our bio-based surfactant systems.
Okay.
And we've got a incredibly smart guy on the team. His name's Neil Hayes, who coins terms and phrases constantly. I mean, he's a meme king when it comes to the chemistry space. I don't know how he always does it, but every presentation has something fascinating in it that everybody can chuckle at or laugh at. But green chemistry back in the day, I think mid-teens to even now, green chemistry had a really weird connotation to it. It usually meant that it didn't perform as well and it was really expensive. That was one of Neil's things, is how can we take a green chemistry that outperforms petrochemical-based chemistries or synthetic chemistries that are both cost-effective and outperform the other chemistries on the market.
Mm-hmm.
And it took years of development, but we have that.
Oh, wow.
So now we've been able to insert these bio-based surfactant systems into blended systems.
Okay.
That now outperform a lot of petrochemical-based synthetic systems, and they're cost-effective. Wow. And that's been something that people have been fighting for years. And there's a lot of bio-based surfactants out there. Some of them take too long and too much CapEx to manufacture in any particular volume. There's processes out there, whether it's fermentation, which create bio-based surfactants, but you have to have massive facilities that look like Coors Brewery in Golden, Colorado to make 100 gallons a day.
Oh, whoa.
Our very smart people created a system where we can make bio-based chemistry by the truckload every day. So it's a fascinating technology, and it's really catapulted us ahead of a lot of our competition in that area.
Well, when you talk about green-based bios, and you hit the nail on the head that it costs a lot of money to do something in the green energy and it be cost effective.
Correct.
So what you guys are doing is really a game changer out there in the industry, because what are the upsides? Can you share with us some of the great upsides to this green surfactant that you guys are using?
Sure. So it's tunability. That's a commonly used term in the chemical development world, is tunability. So in the surfactant world, you have, not to get overly technical on the show, but you're tuning surfactants to various HLB range, and that's its affinities for waters or oils, and its ability to separate and work at those interfaces.
Can you say that again, just a little slower?
We're tuning these bio-based surfactants to a range of HLBs. So you can have these HLB ranges from very low 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 16, 17, 18, and it's application based.
Okay.
That's something that was missed in the bio-based surfactant world. Matter of fact, Neil coined a new term the other day, that the fermentation process, or the use of bugs and enzymes to create surfactants, he calls them bug farts. It was really quite hilarious in yesterday's meetings that we had, but they're not tunable.
Okay.
Right? You have a series of bugs that are digesting, and
Yes.
you get a surfactant out of it, right?
Right.
Ours is not an enzyme-based system. So we're actually reacting the chemistry.
Okay.
Which means that you can add things, whether it's other chemistries, whether it's heat, whether it's cooling, and you can tune the surfactants to come out of that. So now we're working in ultra low IFT surfactant realm, as well as, and that's interfacial tension. That's where you want to be on the surfactant. It's a big metric that most EMPs want to see if you go to third-party testing, is what's your interfacial tension on your surfactant at 1 GPT in my fluid system.
Yeah.
Also, what's my surface tension? What's my wettability or contact angle? There's a lot of things that go into that, but what really makes this system unique is we can make a lot of volume, which means our throughput at the plant is incredible. So we're able to make essentially 5,000 gallon batches in an hour to 4 hours, depending on what we're tuning.
Wow.
Whereas a lot of other bio-based surfactants can take days to make 5,000 gallons, even though that surfactant is just one component in a blend.
Yes.
Right. So you can take 5,000 gallons, and now we're making a microemulsion or surfactant system. We took 5,000 gallons and we made 20,000 gallons.
Correct. Because
by the time you add some other constituents to it.
Man, that's a lot of bug farts.
It's a lot of bug farts. But we don't have any bug farts, so we're good.
Man, thank you for repeating a couple of things during that. I definitely kind of went over my head. I just started, I'm working on towards a master's, and we had a little crash course, and they did about an hour and a half segment on the chemistry, and very interesting on the bios. And I think it's cool. I'd much rather use a bug inside of something like that than eat it, because that is one thing that they keep talking about. It's like, hey, we're going to have to eat bugs in the future.
We're all going to be living on chocolate covered crickets, right?
Right. But I'm almost embarrassed that here I am. That's the first thing that came to my mind, is eating bugs versus our, reuse it. But that is amazing that you guys are able to do something like that. And I mean, what do you by chance know what kind of a footprint that's not creating by using that by chance? I know that's a random question.
So what I can equate that to is at our facility, we can have a single, say 5,000 gallon reactor.
Yeah.
Steel jacketed, cooled, whole 9 yards, which for those of you not sitting in this room, it probably takes up about a 12 by 12 foot floor space. So call it 150 square feet floor space. Now it does take some power, and there's some pumps off to the side, and there's blenders and motors and everything else happening. But for the companies that are doing similar chemistries but using bugs, they may need 5,000 square feet of warehouse to generate the same volume in a day that we can generate in a couple of hours.
Wow.
So from using all the fancy lingo running around today, the net zeros and carbon neutrals and everything else, we're much closer to that than most of our competition.
Wow. So then that means then your customers are, and not necessarily, well, in any form or fashion, your customers, whether it's another chemical company that uses your base surfactant to go into this, or if it's an oil and gas company itself doing the work, you can actually tell them, hey man, you can say you're saving the planet.
Correct. And we have a couple of customers, and this what's called the RCI score, the Renewable Carbon Index, or,
Yes.
or another term that we've coined, which is the modern carbon content, just to give it our own version in a way. And it's a little more descriptive, right? Because what they look at, and I'm going to absolutely screw this up, but I believe it's something around, if it's renewable in less than 100,000 years, it's considered a renewable carbon source. If it's older than 100,000 years, which would be our business, the petroleum business, then it's fossil fuel basic.
That's cold.
So we've moved into this modern carbon content, which is fantastic because it really is descriptive of what we're trying to do. So yes, we have some customers say, all right, if I put in 1 gallon per thousand into the however many millions of barrels of water that are going to go into my next horizontal well, and I compare that to a synthetic surfactant system that I was using before, how much carbon are we removing from the fluid system?
Okay.
That's not an easy number to come up with, because you got to back in, 1 GPT to how much renewable carbon versus non-renewable carbon's in the original formulas to come up with this. If you execute on this many wells in this year, you're going to save so many tons of carbon.
Yeah.
It's a very hard number to come up with. But what we do know is that we are removing carbon from those systems. So, or non-renewable carbon.
But man, what you guys are doing is just, Jim, that is amazing. I mean,
Yes.
what LFS Chemistry is doing, y'all are saving the environment, helping oil and gas companies produce more oil. I think you guys are kind of a win-win. I mean, what made you where was it, or what was your thought process on this green, like to kind of do that and go that route? When did that happen? And
So some of that stemmed from availability.
okay,
There was obviously during COVID, there was a lot of supply chain issues.
right,
And when you're sourcing petrochemical-based products, and if you remember in the April of 2020, something around there, and then again in 2021, the Gulf Coast had a series of freezes which shut down a bunch of plants that normally react the synthetic or petrochemical-based surfactants that we would use. So we're kind of stuck. The prices of a lot of those skyrocketed to where our bio-based systems became very intriguing. We needed a lot of work done on those bio-based systems to get them to be functional in the applications that we had. So that's what we spent our time doing. And then it's all North American agri-sourced product, right? So now we're making bio-based surfactants without importing anything from countries that we're not necessarily great friends with, which is a big deal.
that is huge,
Right. So all of our source products that we react into bio-based surfactants are coming from North America. So we've got wonderful relationships with soybean councils, and we buy a lot of corn feedstock and soy feedstock, and that's what we're reacting to make bio-based surfactants.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool.
So it's fantastic because we're not putting stuff on ships. It's not coming in from overseas. We're not buying incredibly hazardous materials that we then have to handle and react into something that's functional. We're agri-sourced right here in North America for a vast majority of it.
So y'all are recycling at the same time by using, just finding uses for stuff that, in other words,
Correct.
would be waste.
Correct.
I mean, almost not quite, but I always think of Back to the Future Part 2, where he's throwing the trash inside the car for the fuel. And it's stuff that people don't want to use or eat, like the corn stalk and
Yep.
things like that, that it's like, and those are the things that you're using to help save the environment. That's awesome.
Yes.
That is
And we
awesome.
have a couple of wonderful relationships, very strategic relationships with, like, the Ohio Soybean Council,
Okay.
the Arable Labs in Ohio, that really are helping us develop some of the next gen chemistries around those feedstocks.
Whoa.
So, again, it's everybody around. It's not any one person. It's not any 2 or 3 people. This is a very big process.
You have a heck of a team that you've built. And I think that's something to highlight right there. It's like you have literally what I call the smartest people in the room are with you. And that's awesome.
I am
I mean,
never the smartest person in the room when it comes to our meetings.
yeah. Well, and I don't mean, I agree in your philosophy that it's like, man, I need to have other people in the room with me that know more, that understand more to be successful myself and to give this team the success that it needs. Because they still need a leader, Jim, which you know, hands down are definitely somebody that's out there leading these people, motivating individuals, and also making the tough decisions when need be.
That's the not so fun part, but yes, being a part of an amazing team is the greatest feeling on the planet. You know, I try to equate it to having a great home life.
Okay.
You know, it's my second family. It's everybody's there to help everybody else around them win. So it's not a how can I promote myself within the organization. It's if I do this, how does it impact everybody in the organization?
Yeah.
You know, and we focus a lot on that. You know, how can the sales team help the ops team? How can the ops team help the technical team? You know, a lot of the feedback that we get for the technical team comes from the guys on, you know, the boots on the ground, right? They're out there on location. They're the ones sampling and taking a look at fluid systems and what are the pain points and problems for our various customers and feeding that back in saying, how can we make this better?
Yeah.
That's a big part of it.
Yeah.
You know, and then we have some 30+ year chemists that have been all over the world designing and looking at chemistry. You know, again, between Neil and Darren and Ram and Marcus, and I mean, you keep going down the list, you know, the Bretts of the world and you name it.
Yeah.
This doesn't work without all of that coming together.
You know, Jim, I cannot thank you enough with everything you have going on. You know, what is just something that you could give, you know, to you know, let's go back 20 years. Let's go back to 1998. Okay, that was a long time ago. And you know, what would you tell yourself differently then? Like if you could go back and literally tell that 1998 Jim probably got the Justin Timberlake look going on. I'm sure that
definitely not. You know, so it's a great question. It's something that I think self-reflection is something everybody should do often. You know, I couldn't even get to, there's not enough paper in the world for me to write down the number of mistakes that I've made. But those mistakes I look back on and say, well, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing now had I not made some of those mistakes. So
yeah,
I don't know that there's a lot that I would have changed in my life from the time I got into the oil field at 18 to today.
Yeah.
Sure, there's some pretty low spots or some difficult things that have happened that you've just got to look back on and say, how do I learn from this? How does it make us stronger? You know, certainly a couple of times I put my family through the ringer on, you know, but I mean, the support from them has been incredible. You know, it's starting a company when your wife is pregnant is not something that I advise many people to do unless you're already fairly financially set and can take those dives, but we weren't. But she knew I wanted to do it. I was passionate about it, and we made it work. You know, so it's all of the support that you can have. So, you know, never miss an opportunity to meet somebody is probably number one in my book. If somebody calls and says, I think you should meet this, absolutely, I'm there. I'm going to meet you. So nothing may ever come of it.
Yeah.
But something incredible could come from it.
True.
So I never miss those opportunities. And then probably a lesson that actually came from my father a long time ago was if you're ever given the opportunity to speak publicly in any environment, take it.
Okay.
No matter how uncomfortable it is, take it. The return on that is more than you will ever imagine. So from the time I was getting set in the professional world, anytime an opportunity came up where I could be in front of people or speak or was invited to speak, I never turned it down, no matter how uncomfortable it may have been. You know, and sometimes it's subjects you don't want to talk about, but just having those interactions and meeting those people, there's incredible people all over the world. So it's sometimes just having a conversation with somebody leads to a conversation with somebody else that takes you somewhere you never even dreamt of. And that's really a lot of the LFS story, believe it or not, was people that I had met in 2008, 9, and 10 are now investors in LFS Chemistry after we got it up and running.
Yeah.
You know, they were incredible people. A lot of them went through some difficult times with us back in 2008.
Yeah.
With the company that I was at, and they stood by us the entire time, and now they're partners. So it's shake hands, smile, shake hands often.
Yeah.
Meet as many people as you can. be gracious for everything that you've got. But as far as what I consider kind of the little things, college wasn't really for me. I tried it. I tried a lot of it.
Yeah.
At the end, I didn't finish. I just put my head down and went to work and got a little dirt under the fingernails.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, John.
I look at my family. I've got one brother who followed a similar path, not in the oil and gas, but tried college, wasn't for him.
Yeah.
Incredibly successful in landscaping and construction. And I've got my youngest brother, went to Texas Tech, graduated petroleum engineer. He's incredibly successful. College was for him.
Yeah.
So I think everybody's got to find their own path, and I don't think you can force that path.
That I agree with. I like college, but it is not for everybody because of the focus and what's inside of an individual is what's the most important part on if they're going to be successful or not. I would say, that drive, you hear all the cliches all the time, but it's like, if you need other people to truly motivate you, is that really, is that really what gets you going?
Yeah.
You got to have, it's got to come from the inside no matter what it is. I love what you just said about, I don't have, about the mistakes that have been made. You don't have enough paper. And the fact that, your scars make you who you are. And all my listeners out there, that was one question that I just threw out there at the end. We did not talk about that one beforehand. So, Jim, I cannot thank you enough.
Absolutely.
Where can people find you? If they need a motivational speaker, because that's what I just feel like I just got. They need you to come out and talk, because obviously you said, hey, if anybody ever asks you to talk, let's talk. To speak. So how can they find you?
So the easiest place to find us, obviously, we've got a really big presence on LinkedIn. That's always a great place to find and network. Certainly listening to the podcast is a great way to do it. We have an absolutely fantastic website for LFS Chemistry. It's simply www.lfschemistry.com. Can always call. It's part of being in the oil field for so long is that phone rings 24/7.
Yeah.
Especially when you're traveling the world. All the different time zones really, when your phone's ringing at 3 a.m. because you're sitting in Houston, but it's noon in Saudi. You just have to be ready for it.
Yeah. Well, Jim, thank you so much for stopping by the studio today. And thank you for being ready for whatever comes your way and for the innovations that you guys are doing, not only in the oil and gas industry, but to help out the world. Just thank you so much for coming on. I can't thank you enough. And we'll leave it at that. Just thank you so much.
Man, I can't thank you enough for the experience. It's wonderful getting to sit here, and, it's kudos to all of our customers. They give us all the feedback, and they give us the motivation to keep moving forward. So
there you go.
It's a great industry. Love being a part of it.
Oh, it is. It is. And that's the Crude Truth. We'll see y'all next time on another episode here on the Crude Truth.
Again, thank you to our sponsors, LFS Chemistry, NAPE Expo, Air Compressor Solutions, Exec Crew, Oil and Gas Workers Association, Pecos Country Operating.
The easiest way to start your own podcast and TV show? Real News Communications Network. Stand out from your competition. Produce streams of high-quality social media content. Become a thought leader in your industry. With RNCN, you get to be the host. We handle everything else. Tour one of our 3 locations in Dallas, Fort Worth, and the Colony. Call 972-402-6333 or visit launchashow.com to find out more.